Well, Kevin, brother, it is a blessing to have you. Thanks for joining me here for a couple of minutes today.
My pleasure. Good to see you again, sir.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I really want to talk about is your brand new movie, Left Behind: The Rise of the Antichrist. I'll be honest, I've seen a number of these movies previously, the ones that have come before. Anything that you're associated with, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But this movie exceeded my expectations. I guess to kind of get us going here today, Kevin, why did you want to make this movie specifically?
Well, I'm going to go back to, this is a sequel to the movie that Nicolas Cage was in back in 2014. And my movie, God's Not Dead, came out that same time. And Paul Lalonde, who's the CEO of Cloud 10 based in Toronto, they've owned the book rights for like 35 years, said they were inundated with emails, people saying, why is Kevin Sorbo should be in that role? Why do you have Nick Cage in that role? It should be Kevin Sorbo. So they actually called me up. At the time I live in Florida now, as you know, but at the time I was living in LA still. And Paul and John Pattis, one of the co-writers, came out to visit me in LA. And they said, okay, when the next one comes around, you're our guy. And you're going to play that role. I said, okay. So they sent me the script. It was like 2015. I read the script. That was a pretty good script. They had a lot of stuff that was going on. I had a lot of stuff going on. So it literally took until 2 years ago. So it was another 8 years or whatever, 7 years, where they came and said, okay, we're going to dive into this now, but we're going to do a page one rewrite. I went, well, why are you doing a page one rewrite? Because we want to bring it into today's world. The books, back in the 90s, we're going to talk about, this is the 6 months after the rapture, but we're going to talk about what's going on in the world. We're going to talk about the pandemic without naming it. We're going to talk about one world government and fear that government uses to, control all our lives. One currency, the violence, anger, the hatred. They basically talk about today. My wife jokingly said, I think the rapture already happened. God and Jesus kind of flew over us and said, that planet's gone. Let's go somewhere else. So with all this stuff going on. So, I was wrong. They were completely right to rewrite it because the movie came out and we're on 1,500 screens and people went nuts for it. We averaged a 91% occupancy, attendees in each screening. We had a 97% Rotten Tomatoes approval rating. That they hate doing that because those guys are all like atheists that run Rotten Tomatoes. So this was cool. And what's interesting about it is Jerry Jenkins saw it about 3 weeks ago before it came out. Obviously, he sent it to, Tim LaHaye passed away years ago, but he said this is easily the best Left Behind movie ever done, and it's perfect for what's going on in our world today. So we couldn't have got a better endorsement, I think, from the man who wrote the books himself.
Yeah, amen to that. And one of the things that I want to dive a little bit deeper in is some of the things that you're talking about. So with the success of your movie, with the success of various undertakings like Dallas Jenkins is The Chosen, I think conventional wisdom used to be that, Christ doesn't sell, that you can't make money on faith-based programming. But based on the success of The Chosen, based on the success of your movie, are we proving America and the world wrong by showing that there is a commercial value for Christian movies?
Well, I think The Passion did it years ago, and certainly God's Not Dead on a $2 million budget made 140 million worldwide, back in 2014. I just think, the production value is great now because the camera equipment we use isn't any different than Steven Spielberg's big movies. The technology is all there. They just have, a bigger budget and a longer time to shoot things and a lot of visual effects. I love doing movies that I call actor movies that really, we have characters that people can relate to. They walk out of the theater, hopefully they're talking about the movie, and that's what I'm getting on my Twitter feed and my other feeds, and my sorbostudios.com is just being lit up by people saying, we talked about this with the kids, we pulled the Book of Revelation, we read it, and I mean, it's really cool, the response from this. Now, you brought up Dallas. This is interesting because really my first faith-based movie was back in 2010, and Dallas Jenkins has been a friend of mine for years. His family's pretty much the same age as mine, the kids and stuff, and we were all living in LA at the time before he moved to Chicago, and now he's in Dallas, of course. But he sent me the script, What If? And I read it, and he said, what do you think? I said, I love it. Who's playing Pastor Ben? He started naming actors who I know, and I said, no, I'm playing this role. He goes, man, I can't afford it. I can't afford you. And I said, pay me scale. Pay me whatever SAG movie. He said, yeah. I said, pay me whatever you pay the lowest thing that SAG allows. I have to do this movie. Well, What If is written, well, number one, it was funded by Jerry Jenkins and produced by him. Dallas directed it. And then it was really my first, you could call a faith-based movie I ever did. And it's also written by Chuck and Carrie, who did The God's Not Dead. And I always tell people it's a better movie than God's Not Dead. This is the problem with independent movies. How do you get the exposure when you don't have $100 million James Cameron advertising budget? We're lucky to raise $1 million to get it out there to people. So we got to rely on word of mouth. And trust me, all those out there, if you've not seen What If, you need to see What If, because even Chuck and Kerry, the writers, said, I don't disagree with that, because it's not a cut down to them, because they wrote it. They wrote both those things. So, they wrote Unplanned as well. I mean, these guys are a great team, and I hope to work with them again. It's been a long time. So, Chuck and Kerry, come on, I'm ready to do another movie with you guys. But it's an interesting full circle for me to come back and do Left Behind now.
Well, what does it mean to you specifically to do a Christian movie? And again, I'm not just saying this because you're a friend of mine, but I mean, you're quite the actor. You've had quite the career. You've had a ton of success, and I know, just like you spoke at the Covering the World in Christ celebration in December of 2021. You talked about the split between you and Hollywood. But I shouldn't say anybody, but a lot of people can do a movie, a good secular movie. Here you are doing Christian movies. Well, what does it mean to you specifically to do a movie that honors God?
I got to go back to What If. I think that opened the door. I think God nudged me that way, and he opened that door and said, these are the movies I want you to do. We're all called to harvest in our own certain different ways, just as you do. And, I don't want to just preach to the choir. I want the choir to support the things I do. But we're called to reach out to people that are lost, people that are wondering, people that are curious, people that are filled with hate and anger. We both get detractors. We get, we post up, people attack us all the time. And it doesn't affect me. I feel sad for these people, because these people are filled with so much anger and hate, and fueled by what they see from television and movies and what the mainstream media is doing. And this just opened a door for me. What I say in a lot of my speeches now, I say, you know what? One of my favorite poems is my mind isn't blank. A fork in the road. The one that I took the road less traveled. The road less traveled. That's what it's called. Robert Frost poem. And I tell people, I think Jesus was the original person to walk the road less traveled. You're walking it. I'm walking it. I want to turn the road less traveled and do superhighway. That's what I want to do. And I want people to join us in it, because Jesus said you're going to be attacked for following me. And we certainly are, but that's okay. To me, it's like we need to wake up the world. We need to be the light out there, because darkness doesn't like the light, and we need to shine the light on the darkness of the world. And that's kind of pretty much what I'm doing in the movies I'm doing.
Yeah, and you're having quite the impact, I would say. One of the things that Kevin had just mentioned in his answer is he's doing a lot of speaking. If you're an organization that is interested in a person that is filled with faith, that has a lot of experience, and that is going to energize your audience, you got to look at Kevin Sorbo. I think one of my biggest takeaways, Kevin, from your talk about a year and a half ago was you're not here to wake up the sheep. You're here to wake up the lions. And that has been a very memorable talk for me. Speaking of waking up the lions, we got a lot of people watching these videos here that are ready to be awaken.
Sure.
They're ready to start making a difference for Christ. How can these individuals support you in your efforts? How can they support Christian movies, TV shows? Well, what advice would you give for the ordinary Christian business executive that says, you know what, I want to support people like Kevin Sorbo?
Well, the best place to go for us, my wife and I, our website is sorbostudios.com, sorbostudios.com. You can donate to the movies that we're trying to raise money for right now. You can lead us to people that are looking to fund movies like this, because the biggest thing for us, we raised $3 to $5 million. I know it sounds like a lot of money. That's catering budget. I think I told that before. That's catering budget in Pirates of the Caribbean or Avatar. Those are $300 million movies, and they have a huge advertising campaign. We need that word of mouth out there. I wish there was an app that could go to every religious leader around the world and say, here's this movie. Take a look at it. We hope you tell your flock to come and join this, because we need word of mouth to keep these things out there, because Hollywood is winning the culture war. And you see what they're putting out there. Everything is just hate and anger and violence. And, they love their labels. You're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're this, you're that, and they don't have any proof behind it. They just love to say it because you happen to be a Christian or you happen to be conservative, and they want to attack you for that, which is really weird to me. Because I look at places like Netflix and Disney and all these places that have taken a big beating this year, because people are tired of the woke thing. And I say, you know what, they can scream all for socialism and communism. It makes it sound good or something. But the reality is they are a capitalist business. They want to make money. They want their stockholders happy. This country was built on individuals. It was not built on the backs of big government. And the founding fathers we had were brilliant. These guys were brilliant. These were Christian guys. And they when they went against the monarchy, the British monarchy, they knew that it was treason. They knew that they could be hung for this. And yet they still stuck their necks out there and still did what they did. Our government today is worse than the British monarchy was back then 250 years ago. The stuff they're doing to us now with the fear and the taxes and the control. I mean, it's just unbelievable that we keep putting up with it. And I keep saying the silent majority needs to wake up. Well, they need to wake up, because I get people on the set, every movie set I've been on the last 10 years, somebody comes up, whether it's an actor, whether it's a camera guy, whatever. Hey, they look around, thanks for being a voice for us. Like, well, be a voice for yourself. Yeah, I got blacklisted from Hollywood. I'm still making movies. I may not be invited by Tom Cruise to be in one of those big budget ones. I wish I was, because it'd be fun to do Mission Impossible, but it's okay. I'm still making movies and I'm having a blast. I love the creative process. I love doing Hollywood type movies, but I'm not a Hollywood guy.
Yeah. Well, and again, to your point, you're having an impact, you're touching a lot of lives, and you're honoring the Great Commission, which is pretty outstanding. Well, we still have a couple of minutes left, just to kind of go back to your movie,
Sure.
Left Behind. What would you say was one of the biggest challenges in making that movie? Just because you've got a unique front row perspective that the rest of us don't have. And is a kind of like a follow-up question too. What is maybe one interesting factoid that the rest of us would not know? So maybe what was the biggest challenge in filming that movie? And what is an interesting fact that the rest of us might be interested in?
Well, the biggest challenge was that they postponed it with the rewrite. They took a long time to rewrite. I wanted to shoot, we shot up in Calgary. I wanted to shoot in August, September. We didn't shoot until late October, November, into December. So we were lucky, because every single day we were like 55 degrees. The last day of filming, you can see it in the movie, because it was pretty much near the scene. There's snow on the ground. It dropped to like 8 degrees. So they normally have, by October, they have snowstorms. So I was grateful that we didn't have to deal with that, because that just makes it very tough when you're shooting outdoors in that kind of cold weather. So I think that was probably the thing that we were blessed with the most, because I thought, man, we're in trouble with the cold weather here, but we got away with it. And the other one, be surprised. What was the question again?
Yeah, no. So maybe like one interesting, did you know, one interesting factoid that the rest of the viewing public might not know. Sure. Yeah. Anything around the production, the movie, how everything came together.
I'll tell you, there's a scene in there, and I hate to say this, because usually when I say my favorite scene is usually somebody else's scene, but it happened to be my scene with my wife. And she plays, doesn't play my wife in the movie. She plays a woman that just is searching. She's past the agnostic stage. She's just sort of like, I just couldn't bring myself to just say it. I had problems and stuff like that. She goes, what changed it for you? And what's interesting is what the writers wrote. I'm getting goosebumps talking about already. I grew up in my little home in Little Mound, Minnesota, outside of Minneapolis. My mom and dad had this photo in my bedroom my whole life. And it's a very famous photo of Jesus who's knocking on a door. And it's like dusk, and there's no door handle on that side. It's a very famous painting. And the whole thing comes from the Bible saying he's there. He's knocking on your door. You have the door handle. You're the only one that can open that door and let him into your life, let him into your heart. And it just, when we did the scene, we both got really emotional. And it just really hit for us. And I love that as an actor, when some things, I knew it was a well-written scene, but I love that as an actor when you're just in the moment. You know, nobody else is, even though the camera guys and light guys, they just disappeared from me, so locked into that with her. And she started crying, and I got real emotional. It was like one of those moments as an actor, you go, wow, I love that. That's why I love this business. I know it can affect not only me, but I know this will affect other people in the audience, because what was great is that I sat in a screening in LA, because I was shooting a movie last week in Los Angeles. And I went with 3 of the actors and 2 of the producers. We snuck into one of the theaters. And to hear the people laugh at the right places and cry and talk back to the screen. I mean, one of my favorite lines is Buck, played by Greg Perot. And he says, he just finished debating this woman who's talking about, there's going to be another vanishing. I go, how do you know that? Well, we got the data. And he says, don't be in a rush to get a vanishing vaccine. And the audience went crazy. They absolutely, they loved it. So I give the kudos to the writers on that one.
Yeah, well, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I got emotional watching that scene as well. And it's one of those things where almost, maybe it's a guy thing, but I go to movies a lot with my wife, and I don't mind getting emotional in front of my wife, but in a movie, I want to be tough guy. Couldn't help it. Like you said, I could see you getting emotional in that scene. I could see Sam getting emotional. And then even that, it's a small little thing. I don't want to give the movie away, but even that other one where your character is in the church and you're seeking answers for the rapture, and you're watching that video, and the pastor in the video comes off the screen and walks up to you. I just thought that was cinematic brilliance, how he was having that kind of an effect on you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he got locked into the sermon, the speech he's giving, and it just became so personal for him. And that, once again, that was the writers. They just did an amazing job with it. And by the way, I'm going to give a shout out to you because I know you got my buddy Governor Mike Huckabee coming to your place, right?
I do, yes, sir. Yep,
he's awesome. And I did a show a week ago Friday, and I've known Mike a long time, and he is such a class act, man. He's just the group of people attending your event. They should be blessed. He's such a loving, giving man, and he's got such a great sense of humor.
Yeah, I would agree. And I like the message that you gave and that the governor gave at the end of the screening.
Yeah, it was very nice of him to come jump in and be part of that.
Absolutely. Well, last question I have for you, brother, is, and again, I don't know what you're allowed to share or not, but what's next for Kevin Sorbo? Is there going to be another Left Behind movie?
You know what? The writers already said they're going to make the next one. So we're going to have a sequel to this sequel.
Awesome.
The next chapter in the book. I told him, I said, can we shoot in warmer weather? So Paul Lalonde sent me, he said, here's the opening description of the very first page. It says, exterior, Bahamas Beach. And I said, thank you. Because God is everywhere. We might as well be in warm doing it. So
might as well.
I thought it was good. Hey, go leftbehindmovie.com. Go to leftbehindmovie.com and they can get more information as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys haven't seen that movie, get on it. Kevin, you're doing truly amazing work. Thank you for taking time to chat with us, and God bless you, brother. Look forward to continuing to stay in touch and watching all your success.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.